It's time, Fort Wayne. Your sports, your station. It's the Sports Rush with Brett Rump.
Three ball, Max Landis.
Covering all the topics that hit a nerve here in the Summit City.
Clark goes 11 yards, touchdown.
Only on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Now here's your host, Brett Rump.
The greatest, most interesting, most important person of all time.
You are incredible. Older than one. Yeah, well, you're half right. What is this, amateur hour?
This is going to be huge.
I believe this is going to be our finest hour.
Just when I think you've said the stupidest thing ever, you keep talking.
I think that's the worst thing I've ever heard.
That boy ain't right.
The simplest way to put it, I have problems.
Welcome to the alleged show.
It's about damn time. Turn up the music. Let's celebrate. I got a feeling I'm gonna be okay. All right. It's about
Here we go. We're counting down to the national championship game. Coming up tonight, it's the Ohio State Buckeyes and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. We are now just 3.5 hours away from the opening kick, and we'll break it down for you because coming up in just about 15 minutes, we'll talk to the judge, Phil Houk, host of Fighting Irish Preview. And a special championship edition of Fighting Irish Preview will come your way at 6 p.m. right after the Sports Rush. Also, hour number 2, we'll be joined by Don Fisher for our 15 Minutes with Fish. The Indiana Hoosiers with a bounce-back victory, much needed victory on the road at Ohio State, a game that they took control of in the second half and then almost gave a 10-point lead right back to the Buckeyes. They ended up in overtime, and the Hoosiers prevail. Big night for Luke Goody, perhaps a little bit of a revenge game after he was the team spokesman after that embarrassment against Illinois at home at Simon Scott Assembly Hall. He took a lot of heat on social media, but he did come out and have a heck of a game on Friday night as the Hoosiers won against the Buckeyes in Columbus. But it is a packed show. We've got our Parkview Sports Medicine text line open at 260-447-8500. And it's crazy that, I mean, just as we're getting ready to go on the air, we now know the Chicago Bears reportedly have their head coach, and the Indianapolis Colts reportedly have their defensive coordinator, as both stories come out within minutes of us going on the air today.
Yeah, we're happy about that. We always love extra content for the show. And apparently, if you like sports news, around 3:45 is your time to be on the air.
Apparently, that was today's news dump. It must have been like between the inauguration and the rally. It's like, hey, we got a few minutes. Let's throw it all out there because anybody that's paying attention to what's going on with the inauguration today, it's like we got a little bit of an opening on the schedule. But, by the way, we do have a 47th president officially. The inauguration went through without any kind of a glitch. Of course, social media over the weekend. How did you survive your weekend without TikTok?
I was never a big TikTok guy, so I did fine and dandy. But, yeah, we got a new president. Happy Inauguration Day to everybody out there. Happy MLK Day. It's a big day today.
Yeah, and
college championship.
NFL news and college championship. But for some names, to put some names with the titles, the Chicago Bears are currently finalizing a deal, and it looks like their man is Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, or formerly offensive coordinator, for the Detroit Lions. Apparently, this was a deal that was done and decided upon prior to him deciding to throw that crazy trick play into the playbook late in that game that the Lions lost at home as the number 1 seed went down. But Ben Johnson going to the Chicago Bears, where he will then be in charge of kind of mentoring and tutoring Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
And so, but the news also out of Indianapolis is that the Colts have decided on their defensive coordinator. Now, in all fairness and full disclosure, I did think that Dennis Allen was going to be the best pick for this job, but they go with Lou Anarumo, the defense coordinator formerly of the Bengals. In fact, he spent the last 6 seasons with the Bengals. Highly sought after, a guy that comes with a great reputation, but show me the money. You know, it's like what's been the issue with the Bengals over the last few years? It's that they haven't exactly had a stellar defense. And so I kind of felt like Dennis Allen might have been a better choice if you just wanted to find a good, high-quality type of defensive coordinator that I thought would work with the Colts, but Lou Anarumo is the choice. Of course, I'm not in the interviews, so you don't know how these guys interview and how they interpret the personnel, because that could be part of it. But the Colts are going with Lou Anarumo. Colts fans, give us your thoughts on the Parkview Sports Medicine text line, 260-447-8500, 260-447-8500. So it's Ben Johnson to the Bears, Lou Anarumo to the Colts. Adam, your first thoughts, early thoughts on this, because it just broke literally like 20 minutes ago.
It'll be interesting. It's finally an offensive-minded coach in the front role at the Chicago Bears organization. That'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if he can get Caleb Williams to another level than we've seen him so far in the NFL now that he's got an offensive-minded coach.
From what I understand, though, Ben Johnson had opportunities not only this year but last year, and immediately he kind of squelched that and said he was making commitment to stay with the Lions. He thought they had something special brewing, and he wanted to stick it out for at least one more year. And then this year, according to what I was hearing, there were 2 or 3 teams that were kind of eyeballing him as one of their top prospects, if not their top prospect. And he chose the Bears. And I guess, okay.
Yeah. Makes you wonder if he thinks he can take Caleb to the next level.
That's the only thing I'm thinking, is that he believes there's enough talent there with Caleb Williams, because that's the number one thing. If you've got an opportunity to look at different organizations, number one, look at stability in the front office. The Bears have none. And, you could be hired by a current GM who next year is not the GM, and the new GM might want to bring in his own guy. So if you want stability, number one, you want stability in the front office above you. Number two, you want a long-term solution at quarterback already in place. You don't want to have to go find your quarterback. That's one of the problems with the Raiders job. But what do you think, Bears fans? What do you think, Colts fans? Let us know, 260-447-8500. Your thoughts on Lou Anarumo going to the Colts as DC.
Very interesting. Yeah, he said he's known for being one of the most adaptable coordinators in the NFL and should bring some fresh ideas to Indy. You'd like to see that. Anything that's not the Gus Bradley defense of being pillow soft, as you describe, and just allowing play after play to happen is something I'd like to see. And hopefully he also wants to bring a couple more blitz packages in as well.
Of course, Ryan Eaton, our buddy up in LaGrange, he's weighing in today. The first question he's got for us, no Facebook or YouTube video today? What's going on?
Well, we do have a guest in the first hour today. A lot of times on Mondays, we do not have a guest in our first hour because we have so much to catch up on. So we say, why not throw it up on Facebook or YouTube?
Because we are not connected. Our audio does not have a direct connection to our video stream.
Right.
And so if we have a phone guest, the problem is all of our audio gets cut off. There's no audio whatsoever. And so to go 15 minutes or 20 minutes of a video with no audio, it's not worth the time and the trouble to set up the cameras and for Adam and I to go through makeup to have a video stream.
Should be coming in the new studio, though. We should be able to hopefully video stream with audio.
We keep our fingers crossed on that. Yeah.
Ryan also saying he doesn't know much about the new defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo. He says he hopes we see more pressure and big plays created.
And Ryan, we'll let you do your homework so you can give us an opinion on that tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, John, you'll have to give John Nolan an opinion tomorrow.
John, yeah. Coming up tomorrow, a special guest host here. It's a pretty important day. And I hate to miss it. And I don't know if I will or won't. I still trying to determine exactly what my schedule's going to be. But there's a good chance I will not be here tomorrow. So it'll be John Nolan taking over on the Sports Rush from 4 to 6, filling in for me. He'll be joining you.
Yeah.
And so it'll be a little bit of a two-man game tomorrow. But I wanted someone here because I thought there's going to be discussion about Ohio State Notre Dame. You guys going to break it down, what happened, why it happened, who got the trophy, how they got it, why the other team lost it. You'll have everything tomorrow.
I'm going to have a more than detailed breakdown of every single play, probably.
I expect that you will do that because I know for a fact you are not having to cook dinner tonight.
Oh, I shouldn't have told you that.
I know. So you can actually get comfortable, get your notepad out.
Oh, man.
Take notes. I want it all detailed, exactly what happens. Now, I will talk about this game Thursday, if anybody cares by then. I'm going to be. That's why it's like we got to have a show Tuesday.
Right.
I mean, you can't go from Monday to Thursday and not have people being able to weigh in on the text line or talk about the big significant happenings in the game. And so we were able to snag John last second, and he's going to be joining tomorrow here on the Sports Rush. But what do you think? Tonight, you've got Ohio State, who's already got wins over Tennessee, Oregon, and Texas. All of them by 2 touchdowns or greater. You've got Notre Dame with wins over Indiana, Georgia, and Penn State. Ohio State has won their playoff games by a combined total of 111-52. That is a plus 63. No, it isn't. It's a plus 59. I do math sometimes. Plus 59. Notre Dame, 77-51. That's a plus 26. Does that mean Ohio State should be the favorite in this one? Did they play the tougher of the two schedules? Are the schedules about even? And what do you think? Ohio State, Notre Dame tonight. Overall, they're about even in rushing yards during the postseason. Ohio State 418 yards, Notre Dame 464 yards on the ground, but passing almost 2-1. Ohio State 925 passing yards and 3 victories. Notre Dame's thrown for just 558 yards. Quarterback, it's going to be up to a couple of guys who were selected out of the transfer portal that were expected to lead their respective teams, and now they're, I guess, being counted on to try to lead that team to a championship. And we'll see what happens. But who do you have tonight? We're going to give our picks near the end of the show. Give official picks.
Yeah, but we welcome your picks. If you want to send them into the text line, let us know what you think the score will be tonight. 260-447-8500.
Big news today announced by the Horizon League because the Purdue Fort Wayne Mastodons have swept the weekly Player of the Week honors. For the first time in his career in Fort Wayne, Jalen Jackson is the Horizon League Men's Basketball Player of the Week. Over the weekend, I put out a little tweet. I happened to tag the Horizon League, make sure they knew exactly how I felt about this. And I said, how can a player who just was recognized as the National Mid-Major Player of the Year not win a single Player of the Week award? At some point, you got to think, look, just give him the bone. I mean, a guy deserves it. And this week, he had 30 points, 7 rebounds, 3 steals in that double overtime win against Wright State. And apparently the league either just decided, yeah, we don't want to hear Rump with his constant complaining. So they either just gave in to my whining, or they realized, yes, he deserves this. And I'm more likely to believe that it's Jalen Jackson absolutely deserved this. There's no question about it with the performance that he put on at Wright State, including that steal, breakaway, and layup in the final seconds of the victory. It actually was the final seconds of the first overtime. That tied it, but it gave the Dons new life and got them into a second overtime before they won the game. So Jalen Jackson on the men's side and Lauren Ross, the number 1 3-point shooter in the country. She is hitting 50% of her 3-point shots on the season. And we're like 2/3 of the way through the season, hitting 50%. No one in women's college basketball anywhere. I mean, we're talking all the power programs. We're talking Juju and Paige and Hannah and all of them. None of them are hitting 50% of their 3-point shots like Lauren Ross from Purdue Fort Wayne. They got another big win on Saturday against Northern Kentucky. Fell behind 26-21 at the end of one and then allowed 26 points the entire rest of the game and ended up with a pretty one-sided victory. So congratulations to Lauren Ross on picking up the Women's Basketball Player of the Week award. Well, you got the same old teams in the AFC. A little new blood in the NFC. We've got the Conference championship matchups all set. It's going to be Kansas City versus Buffalo. Two teams that I don't think surprise us at all. And then Philadelphia, Washington, which I think you've got a little bit of a mild surprise at this matchup. I don't think anybody expected that Washington would get this far. And maybe even some that doubted Philadelphia after last season. But Eagles, Commanders, Chiefs, Bills. I think Washington, Philadelphia will be worth watching, but it's going to take I think a little sting out of the value of the Super Bowl, because Kansas City, Buffalo, to me, is kind of like having LeBron James versus the Sacramento Kings. You know, it's like they might be a good team and a good collection, but the nation doesn't really know their players. Now, Philadelphia, you do have Saquon Barkley, but he's been on a losing team up until this year.
Yeah, and I think the overall perception is that the winner between the Bills and the Chiefs is most likely going to win the Super Bowl.
Well, that will be the perception of the American public, and we'll have to see how it affects the line for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But right now, what? Kansas City is favored over Buffalo?
I'll check here for you.
I'll just guess, Kansas City is probably a field goal favorite. 2.5, I'll say.
Let's see. Right now, -2, so just under that.
And then, let me see. Philadelphia hosting Washington. Philadelphia will be like a 5.5-point favorite.
You're right on the money.
Am I really?
Yeah.
Put me in Vegas. I got them both. Wow. 2 for 2. You know, of course, the week that there's only 2 games to pick from, I go 2 for 2 and don't have anything else to pick. I want to keep going.
Nothing else.
Find me a game in the G League I can pick. No, I'm not going to do that. I have no idea. Boy, Detroit Lions fans have to be having a bad day.
Very disappointing loss.
That was bad. That was rough.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though. We've got to keep this show.
We do.
We got to keep this show cooking. We're going to check headlines real quick, though, Adam. We're going to go ahead.
All right.
We got to go pretty quick, but I don't want to miss it. Today's top headlines with Adam Lundy.
All right. Well, Purdue and Washington are the biggest, Purdue and Wisconsin had the biggest jumps this week in the AP men's basketball poll. They each climbed 6 spots. Purdue's at 11 and 18 is Wisconsin. The Chicago Bears, obviously, they're hiring Ben Johnson. The Colts are hiring Lou Anarumo as their defensive coordinator. And after the loss to the Commanders, Dan Campbell said today that he absolutely feels the Lions Super Bowl window remains open. Yeah, I do, Campbell said. We talk about that core. That core group is still intact. We've signed some back. Some are up on contracts that'll be ongoing. But yes, our window is absolutely still open. Those are your top stories today.
Hey, that was quick. All right, we got to get a break in because we've got the judge, Phil Houk, standing by from Atlanta for Fighting Irish Preview, which we will have a special edition, championship edition, coming up at 6 o'clock right after the Sports Rush. But let's get updated on the latest between Ohio State and Notre Dame with the judge on the other side of the break. It's the Sports Rush on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.
This is Maria Marcasano, head women's basketball coach at Purdue Fort Wayne, and you're listening to the Sports Rush with Brett Rump on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.
9-0 and all alone in first place in the Horizon League. The Purdue Fort Wayne women's basketball team, they'll head to Detroit for a midweek game before coming back home over the weekend to take on their in-state rival, IU Indy. If you haven't seen this team, what an exciting brand of basketball. A lot of three-point shots, really talented group that came from behind and just blew out Northern Kentucky with J.C. Jones, the former Southside product, in the Norse starting lineup. But it's a lot of fun to watch right now. 11 straight wins for Maria Marcasano, who won her 200th game as a coach. Big congrats to Maria Marcasano. All right, someone who, I think on occasion checks out the Mastodons, whether it be women's basketball or men's basketball. But, geez, right now these Notre Dame Fighting Irish guys, they just keep him too busy to come out and watch a Mastodons game. And right now they've got him down in Atlanta for a national championship battle. It is Notre Dame, Ohio State, and he is the host of Fighting Irish Preview, where we've got a special edition coming up right after the Sports Rush at 6 o'clock. It's the judge, Phil Houk. Judge, how are you?
I'm doing great, Brett. I heard you just talking about basketball season. Is it really basketball season?
Yeah.
When did it start?
Yeah, football just won't end is what it is for you.
Wow.
I mean, it has been a long football season to go all the way back to last summer when it seemed like football was getting underway. And here we are, national championship time for the Fighting Irish and the Ohio State Buckeyes. I know the line is slightly moving Ohio State's direction, which basically means late money seems to be weighted toward Ohio State. I know one of the questions with Notre Dame is their health status. What's the latest that you're hearing down there in Atlanta?
Well, I think one key health statistic that we can all, Notre Dame fans can appreciate, and that is, we believe that Jeremiah Love is going to be in much better physical condition than he was last week against Penn State, where word is that he believed he was only about 75% in that game against Penn State, and he feels that for this particular game, and he's had a couple more days than usual to rehab that knee, that he'd be anywhere from 90 to 95%, which is essentially with Jeremiah Love. That means you're going to have a pretty explosive running back on the field for the Irish. But health is certainly a question. It bit again in the Penn State game with the left tackle Anthony Knapp, who had done an outstanding job all season long at left tackle, arguably the most important position on that offensive line. He went down and will not be available for the game today. So fortunately, the Irish have Charles Jagasaw, who was slated to be the left tackle back in August. Yeah, that was 6 months ago. He has recovered from his injury that he suffered in August, and he is going to get his first official start of the season here tonight at the left tackle position. So the Irish just keep plugging players in, and for 16 games, they're about as healthy as they can be tonight.
When you look at these two lineups, and quarterback is always the position we kind of start with Riley Leonard and what he's able to do with Notre Dame. We've talked about him quite a bit throughout the season and how he's kind of evolved as the Irish quarterback, and I think in some ways how the Irish offense has evolved around him. But what does he have to do? We like to look at passing statistics, but it's not all about the pass for Riley Leonard. What does he need to do to be effective?
Well, of course not. I believe 17 rushing touchdowns now on the season. He's explosive in more ways than one. But I think against a great Ohio State defense, what he does need to do is he needs to do what he has for the majority of the season, and that is be accurate at least in the short passing game. That can become an extension of the running game, which has been Notre Dame's primary forte. And I'm talking about shuffle passes, 5-yard passes, get your running backs involved in the passing game. But that loosens up things offensively for the Irish, and then that may allow the Irish offensive ground game to move forward as they need to tonight. So Riley Leonard, planned runs, those are going to be important, but he's going to need to be accurate, as he has been most of the season in the short passing game.
Is it fair to call Notre Dame secondary a surprise strength of this team this year, or was this expected all along?
Well, in the fashion that it became a strength, I suppose so. We knew Xavier Watts, the returning Nagurski Award winner at safety, was going to be a strength at safety, and of course, and then you had All-American Ben Morrison back, but the way it has evolved, Ben Morrison, mid-season, season-ending injury. But so you've got freshman Leonard Moore, who some experts would say probably maybe is better than Ben Morrison. The way he has played, he's been outstanding. He'll probably be matched up on sensational Ohio State freshman Jeremiah Smith tonight in this game. No, it's not a surprise that they're good. But the fact that it's Leonard Moore, Christian Gray are the two corners probably is a surprise.
Christian Gray is a guy that opposing teams have kind of picked on. How does Notre Dame protect him and not let him get torched by these outstanding Ohio State receivers?
Yeah, they've got not more than Jeremiah Smith. They've got receivers, and then they've got receivers on top of receivers. And Christian Gray is fine. You're out on an island a lot in Notre Dame's defense, so it's going to look like you're getting burned sometimes. but he also is capable of making plays. How are they going to protect him? I still expect Notre Dame to play a lot of man defense. That's what's gotten them to this point. And Christian Gray is just going to have to make plays tonight and play well, or it could be a long evening. We know how explosive Ohio State can be. 34 points in the first half against Oregon in the Rose Bowl. I don't expect that. I think Notre Dame is better than that. I think they're a gritty team, but Christian Gray needs to have one of his better games. There's no doubt about it.
A lot of these games blend together, but if I'm not mistaken, wasn't Texas's strategy in the secondary to just keep everything in front of them and not let Ohio State have the big play? That's not in Notre Dame's playbook defensively, is it?
No, Notre Dame wants to force turnovers, and that, I think, is the key to this game, as it is to any close football game. And Notre Dame has an advantage in that area. Notre Dame is going to continue to play man coverage, try and force turnovers. They're plus 17 in the turnover department. Ohio State is plus 4. Notre Dame has scored more points off of turnovers than any other team in the country by a large margin. I think they're plus 17, but that means they are also, I believe they forced 36 turnovers on the season. So that's what's going to happen for the Irish to have success. Get this game, into the fourth quarter and force a turnover or two, and the Irish, that would be their formula for success tonight.
What type of game do you expect? Do you expect this to be a game that the teams come out cautious or try to establish a running game early? Is it a defensive battle? What type of game do you see unfolding?
Yeah, it's not going to be a high-scoring affair. If it is, then that doesn't bode well for the good guys. And when I say the good guys, most of the people that listen to me are Notre Dame fans, so I think you know who I mean. If you keep the score in the 20s at the most for both of these teams, that's really how I see this happening. And Notre Dame is built for this type of a game. This moment is not going to be too big. I don't think there's any chance that Notre Dame goes out and doesn't play at or near their potential in this football game. They've been in playoff mode for 13 straight football games, if you think about it. They've had to win every single game since they lost to Northern Illinois, and they've shown up and they've played well in every one of those games. Sources tell us that Notre Dame was a very focused but loose team at their walkthrough yesterday, and that means they're a competent team, and that's who I expect to see out on that field tonight.
Which head coach gains more by winning the game tonight?
Oh, well, yeah, Ryan Day almost needs to win this to keep his, well, I won't say to keep his job. He's going to keep his job. There's no doubt about that. But he's got a lot of naysayers in the state of Ohio about his performance as the head coach because he hasn't been able to win this game. I think Marcus Freeman's star has gone into orbit a couple times. If Marcus Freeman wins this game, he could run for president and probably do very well in that. So both coaches have a lot riding on this. Ryan Day more so to validate a $20 million investment in NIL this year, and also to exercise that loss to Michigan at the end of the season. Marcus Freeman, win or lose tonight, his star is really shot very high during this postseason run. But if he wins it all, I can't even really imagine how high it's going to go.
The Mount Rushmore of Notre Dame coaches, though, you've got to get on that, to get your face on that mountain. You've got to win a national title, right?
Yeah, well, and Brian Kelly kind of tested that because Brian Kelly's the all-time winningest coach, but he never won a national championship. So I don't, how do you rectify that? I don't think they're going to build a monument to Brian Kelly anytime soon. So it's year 3. We all know about the 3-year charm for Notre Dame coaches that they win national titles in their 3rd year, or they end up not being too successful. The time is now, and Marcus Freeman can solidify his legacy with a win here tonight.
I'm not going to ask you to make a pick because I know how your picks always go, Judge, but I assume there will be one on Fighting Irish Preview coming up at 6 o'clock.
Oh, it's coming up at 6 o'clock. There's no doubt about that. And, you know, when it came to making a pick this week, and you'll hear me say it on the show, which has been recorded a little bit ago, that a little bit of the judge's wish is maybe in this pick.
Oh.
And that's what we used to call my picks long ago, but I've been a lot more objective over the last 10 or 15 years than I used to be. Nonetheless, though, I think Notre Dame does have a path to victory here tonight. And my keys, as I said earlier, get this game into the fourth quarter. You can't afford to let Ohio State score early and often, which they're capable of doing. And if you do that, Notre Dame, they can win this football game tonight.
Yeah, you can't get, I mean, certainly Notre Dame cannot get into a shootout with Ohio State.
You wouldn't think so, but what do we know, right? But I certainly agree with you. But just when you say something like that, it happens. Hey, whatever it takes, it's a great atmosphere, as you can imagine, down here in Atlanta. It's all red and it's all green, and everybody is just ready for a huge, huge football game here tonight.
What's the weather? What's the weather like in Atlanta? Have they got the cold spell yet?
Oh yes. For Atlanta, it's about as cold as it can be. High 20s, low 30s. I know that's not too bad from Fort Wayne standards right at the moment, but it's windy out there and it's not particularly pleasant outside. But in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, it's sunny and 70 degrees. So let's go.
What, real quick, before I let you go, Judge, want to get a chance to get caught up with what's ahead for Fighting Irish Preview. I know sometimes you do last minute thoughts and stuff. What's going to be posted on social media or on the website?
Yeah, the video I think it should be it was uploading as I took this phone call. So there is a short video, about 3 minutes, a little bit about actually some of the things you just heard me say on this telephone call. And it was filmed just about a half hour ago, me down on the field before the game. So you can look forward to that at the YouTube channel for Fighting Irish Preview. It'll also be posted on the website at fightingirishpreview.com. During the game, look me up on Twitter, Philip Houk, and I'll be tweeting all during the game, and we'll bring you the best coverage we possibly can. I told my team here today that there's no reason not to have a national championship effort, and we're all on board with that.
And you've got the photogs with you as well, right?
Oh, yeah. I share a photographer. I've got my own dedicated photographer. I've got an intern. We have grown by leaps and bounds, and we're all really looking forward to covering this massive football game.
Appreciate you jumping on with us. I know you've got other things ahead, but we'll look forward to your coverage tonight, and we look forward to a special edition of the Fighting Irish Preview coming up at 6 o'clock right after the Sports Rush. Thank you, Judge.
As always, Brett, thanks very much.
Yep, that's the Judge, Phil Houk, joining us here on the Sports Rush. He is, he's an unapologetic Notre Dame fan, has been for life. Started the podcast and / radio show, what did he say, 27 years ago?
Yeah, long time.
Because of his fandom of Notre Dame football, and it has grown now into, it's a small business.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a staff of photographers and, assistants. He's probably got a driver down there. I don't know. There might be a Fighting Irish plane. Who knows?
You never know. Might get a chopper, too.
Yeah. This year, if there's ever been reason to get a plane, he's gone to New Orleans, Miami, now Atlanta. He's been all over the place at following Notre Dame football. But we'll look forward to his coverage tonight. Look forward to Fighting Irish Preview coming up right after the Sports Rush. We roll on. Once again, our Parkview Sports Medicine text line, 260-447-8500. What kind of a game do you expect tonight? Who are you taking? What about at the 9-point spread? Is that enough to tempt you into taking Notre Dame? And if you take Notre Dame with 9 points, do you believe the Irish will win the game, or are you just taking the points feeling like Ohio State will win by less than 9? Give us details. Tell us what you're thinking. 260-447-8500, the Parkview Sports Medicine text line. This is a Monday edition of the Sports Rush on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. The great Don Fisher joins us in hour number 2. It's our 15 Minutes with Fish, presented by Houk Insurance Services, coming up at about 5:20. Also, Josh Van Meter, one of Fort Wayne's favorite baseball players, and, of course, he has bounced around in Major League Baseball the last few years. Spent some time in Cincinnati, spent some time with the Diamondbacks. Today, he posted on social media, it's all about the journey, and posted a letter that he penned that says, growing up, when I got asked what I wanted to be when I grew up, I always quickly answered a Major League Baseball player. That was always my dream, as it is for so many young ball players. And there comes a time in every player's career where you've played your last game. The time has come for me. The memories are endless, from playing my first professional season in my hometown for the Fort Wayne Tin Caps to playing in the stadium I used to go with my dad, Wrigley Field, to all the boys that I was lucky enough to share the field or clubhouse with. Thank you for the memories that I will never forget. They are some of the greatest times of my life. Thank you to all the coaches that not only made me a better player, but passed down their wisdom that my children will one day benefit from. A special thank you to longtime friend and agent Joe Speed, who's been in my corner since I was 18 years old. Thank you for all you've done for me and my family. The biggest thank you I owe is to my family. Very few know the sacrifices made in order for me to live my dreams. But without you, none of it would have been possible. I'm forever grateful for each and every one of you. I'm excited for the next chapter ahead for me and my family, and look forward to this next season of life. Josh Van Meter, calling it a career, Major League Baseball.
Well, congratulations. Very cool, and definitely one of the favorite athletes from around the Fort Wayne area. So congratulations on the career, Josh.
And Josh, love to have you talk about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll hopefully get him on the show.
Absolutely.
260-447-8500, the Parkview Sports Medicine text line, 260-447-8500. Hey, last week we had Coach Kaufman on the show, and we talked about the big game coming up against Cleveland State on January 30th, with ESPNU coming to town and televising it nationally from the Coliseum. And I told him my moniker for the game was support the fort and show the nation the kind of sports fans we have right here in the Summit City. Well, the Purdue Fort Wayne media staff apparently liked it because they have put out graphics, support the fort, but also, as Coach Kaufman mentioned when he was on the show, kids 12th grade and under are going to get in for free.
Yeah.
And so there's no reason to miss the Mastodons and the Cleveland State Vikings next Thursday at the Coliseum. Right now, the first and second place team in the Horizon League going head-to-head, battling it out for first place in the Horizon League. Of course, the Dons have some business to take care of before then, because they'll have Oakland at Oakland coming up on Wednesday, and then they'll go down to Indianapolis to take on IU Indy for the second time this year on Saturday. But before those two games happen before the battle with Cleveland State, it'll be the first of two meetings on the season at the Coliseum, January 30th, and it's been selected as a national broadcast by ESPN and will be televised on ESPNU. Well, speaking of national telecast, Indiana got the national spotlight on Friday night, took advantage of it, got a win over Ohio State. How about that? It wasn't exactly a work of art.
No.
They had a chance to kind of put the Buckeyes away in that second half, and then the Buckeyes rallied late to get it tied, forcing overtime. But Indiana, and I'll be honest, when it went to overtime, I think I said I'd bet any amount of money Indiana's going to end up losing this game, because they didn't put the Buckeyes away, and road games are so tough to win. But credit to the Hoosiers. They faced quite a bit of adversity, and in fact, they've looked bad. They've looked lifeless at times, like they just didn't care. And we'll talk to Don Fisher about this. But one thing that's totally changed in Indiana, players would go to Indiana and feel a privilege to have been selected by the Hoosiers to be part of their basketball team. I mean, that was one of the highest honors, was if Bob Knight approved you.
Right.
and allowed you to be a part of that program. I mean, kids grew up dreaming for that opportunity to be an Indiana Hoosier, wear the candy striped pants. There was great pride in being on Indiana's basketball team. Now, it isn't about what I can do for you as far as the player, what he can do for the university. Now it's all about what the university can do for the player. It's actually completely flipped because now the players want to know, what will you pay me? How much will I play? All of these things. And instead of the player feeling the honor and the privilege of having the university pick them, the mindset is the players thinking, I'm giving you the privilege of me picking you. And it's backwards. And so when they come in, and Matt Painter has kind of addressed this, but when players come in to places like Indiana, it's all about what does the university give me rather than what can I give to this university. And the pride that you have putting on that jersey. And I think that's what we've seen with these basketball teams under Mike Woodson, is we've seen a lot of me, and not a lot of team. And I think Luke Goody is one guy, and Trey Galloway's another, Anthony Leal is another, that all understand the privilege of putting on that jersey and just how important it is to be accepted by Indiana. And there's a number of guys on this roster that don't feel the same way. Indiana is just a name that might get printed somewhere on a check they get. And so I've seen that with this Indiana team. But they did come together and show some pride. But is it team pride or is it individual pride? Because they've been getting blown up on social media that helped motivate them to this win on the road at Ohio State. But Omar Ballo had one of his better games against the Buckeyes, was 8 for 14 from the field, 5 of 7 at the free throw line, 15 rebounds, 21 points, a double-double. But Luke Goody bounced back with his career game. He had never scored more than 18 points in a college basketball game, 18 in a game when he was with Illinois, and he had 18 earlier this year for the Hoosiers. 23 points and hit a huge three in the overtime to propel Indiana to the victory over the Ohio State Buckeyes, 77-76.
Yeah, definitely a statement there from Luke Goody. I think getting that last three to get the victory was a thrilling 6-5 OT.
Now, the Hoosiers still can't shoot from three. Luke Goody had a good game. He was 4 for 7, but the rest of the team was 2 for 13 from behind the three-point line.
Not good.
And what's up with Mackenzie Mbako? I got to ask Don this question. What is going on with a guy who was expected to really step up this year for the Hoosiers, and at times this year has been really solid, but he is in a funk, man. 1 for 5 from the field, 0 for 4 from distance, just 6 points and 2 rebounds in the game against Ohio State. Those are not the numbers you expect from Mackenzie Mbako. Is there something in his head? Has he got some type of an injury we don't know about? We'll ask Don, what's the story with Mackenzie Mbako, and why has he become totally unproductive for the Hoosiers in the last 3 or 4 games? But Indiana does get the win against Ohio State. Now they've got a trip to Northwestern, and that ain't going to be easy. That's a feisty Northwestern team. In fact, that whole team has taken on the personality of Brooks Barnheiser, the kid out of West Lafayette area. They've taken on his identity, just a tough blue-collar type guy, just a fighter, battles for rebounds, battles defensively, hits big shots, highly competitive. It'll be a tough one in Evanston for the Hoosiers before they come back home, take on Maryland on the weekend.
Should be fun. We'll see if they can keep things turned around.
Purdue, meanwhile, defense looked really good in that second half against Oregon.
Yeah.
And I think Purdue's starting to find or feel their identity, how they're going to win without Zach Edey, because the defense looked in sync. Their rotations were good. They didn't allow just simple penetration. They got in front of guys and made driving to the basket difficult, where at times this year they've not. And they made it tough on Oregon.
Yeah, and finished up a good little doubleheader out west there on the West Coast against Washington and Oregon. So good job for the Boilermakers. They moved up 6 spots in this week's AP men's poll.
Well, Oregon was number 13 or something like that in the country?
Yeah.
And they got held to just 27 points in the second half.
Good stuff. Good second half.
Really solid. For Purdue, Trey Kaufman-Renn, big-time game. 23 points, 11 rebounds, a double-double for the Boilermakers. Only one other player got to double figures. That was Braden Smith, who had 15 points. And he got 5 of 6 at the free throw line. Really, it wasn't the most efficient performance by Braden Smith. 5 for 15 from the field and 0 for 3 from 3. But he did finish with 15 points as the Boilermakers get the win against the Oregon Ducks. Quack, quack.
Quack, quack indeed.
All right, we got to take a break. We got a big hour on the way. We're going to talk to Don Fisher. We've also got talk about the conference championships, and Adam and I will make picks for tonight's Notre Dame Ohio State national championship game, all coming up here on the Sports Rush, 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.